The strength in vulnerability, redefining leadership for the 21st century. Welcome to the BlackCEO Podcast. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that has the power to revolutionize the way we think about leadership and personal growth. I had the incredible opportunity to interview Rae Ashe, a visionary leader whose insights have not only transformed countless organizations, but have also sparked a movement towards more authentic, transparent, and effective leadership. Rae's unwavering commitment to fostering environments of trust and collaboration has made her a beacon of hope in the often turbulent waters of corporate leadership. Her work has touched lives across industries, proving that true strength lies not in an impenetrable facade, but in the courage to be genuinely human. Now, let me ask you a question that might make you squirm in your seat a little. When was the last time you admitted to your team that you didn't have all the answers? If you're feeling a bit uncomfortable, don't worry. You're not alone. In fact, that discomfort is exactly what we're here to talk about today. You see, we've been sold a myth that leaders must be infallible, all-knowing beings who never falter, never doubt, and certainly never ask for help. But what if I told you that this very myth is holding us back from reaching our full potential as leaders and as human beings? In my conversation with Rae Ashe, I discovered a profound truth that challenges everything we've been taught about success in leadership. Rae believes firmly in transparency, and one of the toughest challenges she's had to overcome was getting out of her own way. This resonated deeply with me, and I want to explore this idea with you today. Now, I know what you're thinking. Vulnerability in leadership, that sounds like a recipe for disaster. Trust me, I've been there. I've worn that armor of invincibility thinking it was protecting me, but let me tell you, that armor is heavy and it's exhausting to wear. Rae's insights made me realize that understanding it's okay to ask for assistance or seek guidance doesn't mean you're incapable of completing tasks or achieving goals on your own. Rather, it means recognizing that you don't have to do it all alone. Being vulnerable is not a handicap. Thinking you are invincible is. Let's pause for a moment and let that sink in. How many times have you hesitated to ask for help, fearing it might make you look incompetent? How often have you struggled silently with the problem, convinced that admitting uncertainty would undermine your authority? I want to share with you 3 crucial lessons I learned from my conversation with Rae Ashe. Lessons that have the power to revolutionize the way we approach leadership and personal growth. First, vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. When we embrace vulnerability, we open the door to greater trust and collaboration within our teams and organizations. It allows us as leaders to admit when we don't know something and seek help, which can prevent major problems from arising. Let me illustrate this with a powerful example. There was once a CEO of a multinational manufacturing firm who faced a significant challenge. His company was experiencing high turnover rates due to contentious relationships between U.S. and Asian-based employees. Despite his intelligence and expertise, he struggled to address this issue effectively. Now, picture this CEO, let's call him John, sitting in his corner office surrounded by awards and accolades. He's built this company from the ground up, and he's always had the answers. But now, as he stares at the report showing skyrocketing turnover rates, he feels something he's not used to feeling: fear. John's inability to admit his need for help and his avoidance of discussing the problem with the board led to underperformance and eventually his replacement. This story is a stark reminder of how avoiding vulnerability can lead to significant business vulnerabilities. Imagine how differently this scenario might have played out if John had embraced vulnerable leadership. Picture him walking into the boardroom, taking a deep breath and saying, "I need your help. We have a problem and I don't know how to solve it." It's not an easy thing to do, but it could have changed everything. This brings me to the second crucial lesson: the importance of seeking guidance. It's vital to understand that asking for help doesn't signify weakness. Instead, it shows a willingness to learn and grow, which is essential for personal and professional development. Research on vulnerable leadership emphasizes its role in increasing company trust and profitability. Leaders who delegate authority, express emotion, and share mistakes foster a more trustworthy environment. This might seem counterintuitive in a business culture that often discourages vulnerability, but the results speak for themselves. Let me share another story with you. There was a tech startup led by a brilliant but notoriously perfectionist CEO. She had a reputation for never admitting mistakes and always having the right answer. Her team was terrified of making errors, and innovation had ground to a halt. One day, during a crucial product launch, everything went wrong. The servers crashed, the app didn't work, and customers were furious. The team braced themselves for the CEO's wrath. But something unexpected happened. The CEO called an all hands meeting. With a shaky voice, she said, "I made a mistake. I pushed us too hard, too fast, and I didn't listen when you raised concerns. I'm sorry. Now I need your help to fix this." The silence in the room was deafening. Then, slowly, team members started speaking up, offering solutions, admitting their own mistakes. That day marked a turning point for the company. They not only fixed the product, but emerged stronger, more innovative, and more cohesive than ever before. This story illustrates the third lesson I want to share with you. Transparency fosters trust. Being open and honest about challenges and uncertainties can build stronger relationships and more resilient teams. This transparency can lead to better communication and more effective problem solving. A study on the effects of vulnerable leadership on team dynamics shows that when leaders are open about their challenges, teams are more likely to collaborate and solve problems effectively. Many leaders fear that showing vulnerability will undermine their authority, but in reality, by admitting weaknesses and seeking help, leaders can build stronger, more resilient teams. Now, I want you to take a moment and reflect on your own leadership style. How often do you allow yourself to be vulnerable with your team? Do you create an environment where it's safe for others to do the same? As I absorbed these lessons from Rae Ashe, I realized that embracing vulnerability in leadership is not just about personal growth. It's about creating a ripple effect that can transform entire organizations and communities. Imagine a world where leaders at all levels felt comfortable admitting when they don't have all the answers. Picture workplaces where asking for help is seen as a sign of strength rather than weakness. Envision teams where open, honest communication is the norm, not the exception. This is the world we can create when we embrace vulnerable leadership. It's a world where innovation thrives because people aren't afraid to share their ideas, even if they're not fully formed. It's a place where problems are solved more quickly and effectively because everyone feels empowered to contribute their unique perspectives. But let's be real for a moment. Embracing vulnerability isn't easy. It requires courage. It demands that we challenge deeply ingrained beliefs about what it means to be a leader. It asks us to step out of our comfort zones and into a space of uncertainty and potential criticism. I can almost hear some of you thinking, that sounds great in theory, but in the real world, it's just not practical. I get it. I've been there. But let me challenge that thought for a moment. Think about the leaders you admire most, the ones who truly inspire you. Are they the ones who never make mistakes, who always have the right answer? Or are they the ones who are honest about their struggles, who admit when they're wrong, who show their humanity? I'm willing to bet it's the latter, because here's the thing. We don't connect with perfection. We connect with authenticity. Yet, as Rae Ashe's insights reveal, the rewards of vulnerable leadership far outweigh the risks. When we lead with vulnerability, we create stronger connections with our teams. We foster an environment of trust and mutual respect. We open ourselves up to new ideas and perspectives that can drive our organizations forward. So I challenge you today to take a step towards vulnerable leadership. The next time you're faced with a problem you're not sure how to solve, resist the urge to pretend you have all the answers. Instead, be honest with your team. Admit that you're uncertain and ask for their input. When you make a mistake, and we all do, resist the temptation to cover it up or make excuses. Instead, own it. Share what you've learned from the experience and how you plan to do better in the future. And perhaps most importantly, create an environment where others feel safe to be vulnerable too. Encourage your team members to share their ideas, even if they're not fully formed. Celebrate those who ask for help or admit when they're struggling. Remember, as Rae Ashe so powerfully stated, it's okay to be the student. In fact, maintaining a learner's mindset is crucial for continuous growth and improvement. When we approach leadership with humility and openness, we create endless opportunities for learning and development. Now, I can see some of you shifting uncomfortably in your seats. You might be thinking, This all sounds great, but how do I actually do this? How do I start being more vulnerable without feeling like I'm compromising my authority? It's a valid concern, and it's one that many leaders grapple with. But here's the thing. Vulnerability doesn't mean oversharing or being emotionally unstable. It's about being authentic, honest, and open to learning and growth. Start small. The next time you're in a meeting and someone asks a question you don't know the answer to, try saying, "That's a great question. I don't have the answer right now, but let's find out together." Watch what happens. You might be surprised at how your team responds. Or try this. At your next team meeting, share a mistake you made recently and what you learned from it. Encourage others to do the same. Create a culture where mistakes are seen as opportunities for growth, not reasons for shame. Remember, this isn't about becoming weak or ineffective. It's about becoming more human, more relatable, and ultimately more effective as a leader. As we wrap up this talk, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question. What could you achieve if you weren't afraid to be vulnerable? How might your team or organization transform if vulnerability was seen as a strength rather than a weakness? I encourage you to take these insights from Rae Ashe and apply them in your own life and leadership. Embrace vulnerability. Seek guidance when you need it. Foster transparency and trust in your relationships and teams. Remember, true strength doesn't come from pretending to be invincible. It comes from having the courage to be authentically yourself, imperfections and all. It comes from creating an environment where everyone feels empowered to do the same. Now, I have a challenge for you. Over the next week, I want you to practice vulnerable leadership. Find at least one opportunity each day to be authentic, to admit uncertainty, or to ask for help. Keep a journal of your experiences. Notice how it feels, how others respond, and what impact it has on your team and your work. At the end of the week, reflect on what you've learned. How has this experience changed your perspective on leadership? How has it affected your relationships with your team? What challenges did you face and how did you overcome them? Share your experiences with others. Start a conversation about vulnerable leadership in your organization. Be the catalyst for change, because here's the truth. The world doesn't need more perfect leaders. It needs more authentic, vulnerable human leaders. Leaders who have the courage to say, "I don't know, I need help," or "I made a mistake." Leaders who create spaces where others feel safe to do the same. You have the power to be that kind of leader. You have the power to transform not just your team or your organization, but to be part of a movement that's reshaping what leadership looks like in the 21st century. So I ask you, are you ready to embrace your vulnerability? Are you ready to lead with authenticity and courage? Are you ready to change the world one honest conversation at a time? The choice is yours. The journey starts now. Let's redefine leadership together. Thank you.